think that you can see through the key theme through everything that everybody's talked about so far is the importance of managing people, and especially the complexities of these types of programmes, which are huge. The amount of people that are involved in this is just unsurmountable. It's just, you can't even start to comprehend the importance, the roles that these people play in this project. So hopefully Simon's going to emphasise that, and any questions we'll be able to ask at the end.
Okay, yeah, we're going to have to absolutely rattle through this because this is a massive subject. So I'm going to state right from the beginning that I'm going to be concentrating here on the things that I've been involved in CrossRail, which is working with the external stakeholders. There's the whole stakeholder engagement piece for what we might call internal stakeholders, people who truly do have a stake in the project. But the phrase stakeholder covers absolutely everybody. The first thing that you have to do when you are, let me talk about the phases I'm going to go through. So during the CrossRail going through the process, there's basically 3 identifiable phases of different ways in which we've had to manage stakeholders and work with stakeholders. So the first phase was the development phase. That was from the idea through to getting the agreement to put the bill in. So in that phase, there was what we called stakeholder consultation, but that really meant the higher level, local authority and non-statutory body discussions about the route options for CrossRail. We didn't want to open that to the public because it's basically not defined enough for people to make comment. And that's one of the things which sometimes gets you get criticised for, is not when you go to consultation when you haven't got a sensible scheme to comment on. Then there was once we've arrived at the point of a preferred route for CrossRail, then there was public consultation. And throughout all of that, we were at the same time making the case for the project, making the case for this massive investment with the organisations who were going to be funding it. Mainly, I mean the Treasury. So that was the development phase, so we're saying there basically 2002 to 2005. 2005 to 2008, the authorisation process while we were in Parliament, and our negotiations, the focus there was on negotiating with those who petitioned against the bill. So rather than consulting with the whole public, the team that I was managed, which was the consultation team in the pre-bill process, was the petitions negotiation team in the bills process. We focused right down to a much smaller number of people. There were 650 odd petitions, and we were really only talking to those 650 people. The project as a whole was also continuing the development of the funding package, still dealing with the Treasury and politicians about that, but that was in a different part of the scheme at that point. And then the last phase is the phase we're in now, the delivery phase. So the major external work to deal with stakeholders is the community relations function, making sure that the community are listened to and communicated with about the work which is going on around them. And then there is still the public affairs efforts with the politicians and to make sure that they are aware where the project is, aware that we're doing a good job, so that if anything does go wrong, we have made our put our reputation out there so that people accept that they understand that we're generally a good organisation, and they'll give us a little bit of the benefit of the doubt should something actually go wrong, which it hasn't yet. And then lastly, of course, the media. There's a lot of media interest, and I'll talk particularly at the end about the way we have used not just the media, but television and other ways of promoting the project, and promoting the existence of the project, and buying the forbearance of people to actually accept the work that's going on to build the project because of what's coming in terms of the benefits of the project. So at the outset, the first thing you should always do in stakeholder management is map your stakeholders. So these were the stakeholders that we had. The local authority is very, very important because they are the ones who would normally have the power to the power of planning applications to give permission or otherwise to the project. An Act of Parliament takes away that power from them, but they still have what's called the CrossRail Schedule 7 process, whereby we have to apply for detailed planning consent for certain parts of the project. So we need CrossRail, we need local authority officers and members to understand what the project is and what it's doing and what the benefits are for the local authorities. There are statutory agencies like the Environment Agency, etc., that have statutory powers similar to local authorities, but that those powers will still have the say that they need to in environmental issues. Non-statutory bodies is all those other organisations at national level that are non-statutory. We came up with a particular group of representative groups, so that's every organisation. This is for anything from the CBI, which is representative of all businesses in the whole UK, all the way down to a local residents association. So all of those groups are not individuals, but they are represented. It's useful, it's best to go through a representative group because it gives you a way to distill down a huge number of people to a few representatives that are already trusted by the people that they represent, and that you can have usually a very good dialogue with them. The people who are actually affected by the project are, of course, their own group. Those who are live or work near the CrossRail construction sites. Politicians at all levels to make sure that they are comfortable with what the project is doing, so that when somebody comes to them for a comment, they are positive about the project. And then there's everyone else, so this is the whole UK, particularly as I talked about earlier about how clearly we're spending a lot of money here in London. The rest of the UK sometimes not happy about the fact that a lot of investment happens in London. We need to be making that case that there are benefits to the whole UK from the project. And then the media talks. So in the pre-build time, we carried out consultation. We did 3 rounds of consultation. The high-level stakeholder consultation, which, as I say, was only with statutory bodies. There's 2 rounds of public consultation. We didn't originally set out to do 2, but the Treasury didn't accept our first business case, so they asked us to go around the business case process again. So in doing that, we changed the project. We were running to different stations, so we had to do a second round of public consultation. And then when the bill goes into Parliament, that's really the true consultation. That's where the plans that we're proposing get tested, and they get people get to have their say in front of a committee of Parliament. So we wanted to make sure that at that point people knew the scheme that we were putting in, and if things had changed between round 2 and the scheme that we had, the shape of the scheme as it was in round 2 and the one we put in Parliament, we needed to make sure people understood that and they weren't petitioning on things which had already been taken out of the scheme. This was our stakeholder consultation document, so in May 2002 was the first public. This was available on our website, even though we didn't actively go to the public. Anyone could have responded to it, but we didn't necessarily call attention to that. That was May 2002. So you can see how long the process is to arrive at a project like CrossRail. This is what the 2002 was about. We had our central London section of the project essentially nailed down because the previous scheme, as I talked about in the 1990s, CrossRail project, had already identified a route through the centre of London, which we couldn't really change. It had been safeguarded from opposing development by a safeguarding direction, so anyone who wanted to build a building with deep foundations that would have affected where our tunnels were going to go had to give that planning application to the local authority. The local authority would pass it to us, and we would say, no, you can't build that building because that's where CrossRail is going. Obviously, over time, buildings crop up and they constrain your route. So CrossRail's route, because it had been safeguarded since 1991 in the centre of London, there wasn't really anything for negotiation there. But what was for negotiation or discussion was where do the trains go? So this is a map of all the options we looked at in the west. So we had options on the Chiltern railways, options to Watford, High Wycombe and Reading, and we put these out to the stakeholders with people like the local authorities, the statutory bodies, and what were then the regional planning organisations. And that enabled us to come to a preferred route, which we then took to public consultation. The objectives of the consultation exercise, you want to make sure that first of all, you can't be criticised for it, you want to make sure that you've actually got to everybody. You've got everyone who could be affected by the project has had their opportunity to have their say. We want to contact a wide range. We want to make sure we record the positive comments. A lot of the time, people have a lot to say about their negative feelings about the project and what we shouldn't do. A consultation process shouldn't just be a lot of people being negative. We want to make sure that we record everything positive that people say to give a balance to it. And CrossRail was very lucky in that sense because a lot of people could really see the benefits of the project. And we'd already been through a consultation on the Mayor's strategy in 2000, which had suggested CrossRail should happen, and had received something like a 90% approval rating. You want to make sure that you identify people's concerns, which is recording the negative context, and then because you have done that, you've got the opportunity to identify ways to mitigate those concerns. So if you can change something about the project, to reduce or remove the possibility of a petition, you can make that change, you can talk about an individual or organisation, and hopefully remove their negative feeling about the project. So overall, the consultation process, my main aim for it was to reduce the number and the seriousness of the petitions, so that in Parliament we wouldn't be there for years and years and years, and that the people that would be appearing against us, the committee would feel that CrossRail had done all that it could to improve the project and deal with their concerns. So when do you consult? This is extremely difficult. On all projects, this is something you have to make a decision about. You have to have a scheme that is understandable, but in order to get to a scheme that is understandable, you have to design it. Once you've designed it, people start to think, well, that's what it definitely is. So there's the sort of, there's a spectrum of, is it too developed for people to think that, oh, it's all done, it's all fait accompli, there's no point in me saying having a say in it, or there's not enough here for me to actually comment on. So you need to do it when there's enough detail for people to understand the project, but while there is still an opportunity to influence. And that opportunity to influence things is as much a matter of convincing and getting support within the organisation that you represent for ensuring that we will listen to consultees, we will change things about the project, and getting that embedded in the culture of the organisation. Luckily, there's a lot of projects which have gone through and had difficulty because they have been intractable, that you can say, we will save money by having a good consultation process. We will save time by changing things now, rather than waiting and having to do it in response to a petition in Parliament. You have to set the consultation agenda. You have to tell people what you're asking them. You have to say that here's what you can influence and here's what you can't. But you also have to consider what's called blight. So at the point at which you reveal the project, you are going to be affecting sometimes people's houses. So if there's a tunnel going below them, they may then not find it as easy to sell their house because a tunnel is coming. I would say the tunnel is never actually going to cause any problems, but people that are buying houses will sometimes, that could be a decision factor. So what we have done because of that is that had a scheme whereby people that were unable to sell property as a result of CrossRail having been put out there, CrossRail could step in and acquire the property. And that's an even more detailed and more extensive similar thing was put in place for ISP 2. It's been developing over the years. How we consult? Well, there's me and a couple of others having a chat in a community centre. Meet people. There was a thing called the planning forum that was set up, so the local authorities bring all the representatives of the local authorities together. That's the officer representatives. And when we talk about policy things, work them through at the planning forum so that we don't have to have those arguments in the bill in the committee. We actually produced a consultation document. We held exhibitions. There's an example there. I was speaking to somebody about the scheme at Guildford Town Hall. Produced briefing material, and then we had our roadshow where we could. We would be in existing community facilities, so we're not making people go out of their normal way. But where we couldn't find one, we had a mobile unit. There's one. That's before we put anything in it, but mobile unit for us to go into supermarket car parks and invite people along to come and talk about the project. Here are some of the materials, a large amount of material we produced during the consultation process. All of that was placed on our website. And of course, we're talking here about 2002, 2003. You won't believe it, but the internet was not the thing that it is now then. Really, we just had PDFs of those documents. Anyone doing a consultation now can absolutely do a digital by default, very much internet based one. But in those days, And it's not very many years ago. It was a very different thing. And then once you've received people's comments, you need to actually act on them. So you need to respond. You need to analyse the comments, because we could have thousands. We've got to in some way distill that in a way that it's useful and easy for the organisation to respond. You need to review the things which have come back from a lot of people. So, for example, on CrossRail, we had a lot of opposition in the early days to a proposal we had for a stabling facility at a depot in Ilford. The reason why we had that opposition was because the depot was on the south side of the railway, the tracks for CrossRail were on the north side of the railway. We had to build a dive under to get into the depot, and that dive under had to take a little bit of a playing field. So that slight loss of community amenity was a really serious petitioning point. We weren't able to get rid of that during the consultation process. However, we did design it out in the Act. You want to feed back to people. You want to make sure they understand you have listened, and where there is a change, tell them that has changed. So they don't petition on something that's no longer the case, but also trust you as an organisation to actually react. And then report. We've created reports for each of our rounds of consultation, and those were very, very useful in Parliament when the committee members were asking us questions about how we consulted. We could point at how many days of consultation we had, how many responses we got, and what those responses were. All of that is actually available on the CrossRail website. So that was the pre-bill process. I'm going to talk very, very quickly about the bill process. There's a couple of slides about that. What the Act is. I don't know how well you can understand the various authorisation processes you can have for major projects in the UK. You can either have, well, if you're within one single local authority, you'll probably just be doing a planning application. CrossRail and many other projects, they're linear, they affect lots of local authorities. What you can't have is lots of separate planning applications, because then if any one local authority stalls it, it stalls the whole project. So there is the Transport and Works Act, order process, which you can go for. Or now there's a thing called the Development Consent Order under the most recent Planning Act. But trumping all of that, the absolute top level is a bill in Parliament. Those bills are called hybrid bills, bills for major infrastructure projects, called hybrid bills because they're not just for national policy, they also affect people's personal interests, like they're affecting a house or a business. CrossRail is one of the most recent. High Speed 2 is currently in Parliament. It's just finished the Commons process, and it will be going into the Lords at some point. And there's another High Speed 2 bill process which will be coming for the northern parts of High Speed 2. But they don't come around very often. And but what they do is they give the power to the Secretary of State to build a project. The Secretary of State then has the ability to appoint a nominated undertaker. CrossRail, that one undertaker was CrossRail, and as I said earlier, London Underground and the London Underground station upgrades. And it takes away some of the powers of the local authorities, and we have to give those back through the Schedule 7 process. It gives the power to acquire land from people, and obviously that land has to be compensated through the normal compulsory purchase recommendations. And it gives the planning permission for the whole scheme and puts in place a Schedule 7 process for detail planning. So once that bill goes in, anyone who is affected can place a petition to Parliament. That petition is then heard by a committee in both houses of the Parliament. We received 466 petitions at the House of Commons stage of the process. Only 204 of those actually appeared in front of the committee, because the others we were able to negotiate away their concerns. We were able to say we either gave people a commitment, or we explained how we were going to deal with the thing they were particularly concerned about, and they withdrew their petition. We gave 34 second house undertakings. That's the thing which means we'll hear your concern in the House of Lords. Give us another year or so to negotiate over it. There were 113 petitioners in the House of Lords, and only 46 of those were heard. In the negotiation, we gave 726 commitments, but that's kind of a headline number. That's basically 726 organisations and people that we gave certain commitments to. Some of those were detailed agreements with thousands of individual things that CrossRail had to do in them. So If we say promise not to use a particular bit of land, or one that's a really good example is our promise not to have lorries go down a particular road at school opening and closing times, so that they're not conflicting with children walking to school. Those are promises we made to Parliament, and we absolutely have to require our contractors to comply with those. So a whole process had to be put in place to make sure our contractors did comply. So that's the bill process. I'll talk about that. And now we're into community relations, which is delivery. So this is just to show you the difference between CrossRail's perspective, generally, of what we're doing, and the community perspective. So we've got plans of what we're going to do at Whitechapel. We've got some sites that the black here is the CrossRail sites, the red are community sort of receptors of our works. We're just digging tunnels below ground, but to the people that live nearby, this is our shaft at what's called Cambridge Heath Road at Whitechapel, and the block just back to the corner there, that's an early Victorian, what used to be a brewery, but it's now a load of flats. And of course, a lot of those flats can see right into that shaft, and some of this work was had to be going 24 hours a day, so there was significant noise and visual impact on that community. Similarly, when we're doing utility diversions, we've got road closures, road narrowings, which impact traffic. And at the other side of Whitechapel, we've got our Durban Street site, and this is right up against a school called Swanley School. You can see there we've got we've actually got a bit of the school itself forms the site boundary there. And for Swanley School, we entered into quite a lot of commitments about, for example, not tunnelling while they were in their exam periods, so that they could be sure that there wouldn't be disturbance for the students while they were doing exams. So the purpose of community relations is to establish and maintain an outstanding reputation with the local authorities, who give you the permission to build and permission to do certain noisy work. And all of this is fundamentally linked to our main messages of on time and on budget. In order to do that, the fundamental overall aim for community relations is no surprises. Some negative things are going to be happening. Some things are going to be happening which people, there's going to be noise, there's going to be lorries, there's going to be impacts on people's lives. As long as you tell people it's coming, and they have time to react to it, they have time to prepare for it, you're probably going to be okay. People might be happy, but to not tell them that it's coming would be absolutely disastrous. So the key point is timely, accurate and relevant provision of information. Also make sure you're delivering those commitments through the Statutory process, and do the right thing, basically. Listen, respond. In a lot of cases you can't change the way in which your building works, but if you can, then you should always consider doing it. We've got all of these channels for communicating with people. Our contractors are required to employ contractors' community relations representatives, so that somebody is there on site that the community can contact. We have a bulletin which goes out every 3 months about the progress on the project. We have local versions of that about the station sites. Every bit of work that we do, we distribute information sheets in the local area to say, here's this piece of work that's about to happen, 2 weeks before it does. And we've got a help desk, which is 24 hours a day, open at any time for people to make a complaint or a comment about the project. So that's the first point of contact for people inquiring at the project, and it deals with complaints handling. Outside office hours, it's covered by a team in the office during the office hours, but outside that, we've got a company that answer the phones. They're not a call centre. They've done this same thing for Chelmsford and Rail Link, and they really understand a construction environment, and they're very good. They are then contact the contractors. So there's one single number that everybody comes into if they have a complaint about the project, and then that person then gets action on the contractors, and the contractors are required to be on call 24 hours a day. Our website has pages which tell people about the stations, and most particularly it has a thing called CrossRail Near You, which is a map of the whole project, and showing you where the sites that we are working on are. And when an information sheet goes out about a piece of work, there'll be a little hat that appears on the map, a little hard hat. Click on the hard hat, and it gives you a copy of the information sheet, so you can see what works we're doing and how it will affect you. Another important thing we placed on the website, which we actually created in the days of the early Consultation, is what we call the information papers. So there was a suite of what I guess are policy documents about how CrossRail deals with, for example, ground settlement, or for example, noise from the construction railway. These set out in as much detail as we could manage while still making them readable, answers to the questions which people would typically have. So our policy and our position on that is set, and the information paper gives you that. We've also established specific pages on the website for the things which are of greatest concern to people. And ground settlement is definitely one of those. A lot of people are concerned that if you're tunneling underneath the property, that will affect damage or could even have a building collapse. That's never going to happen, but what we do to make sure that people understand how we are mitigating it and how we're dealing with that risk, we've actually got a specific page which explains all the processes we go through. As well as the community relations, we have a community investment programme, so all of our contractors are required to do community investments, so give some of their time to local organisations or facilities. So we've had donations and volunteering, about 150 projects as a whole, and we've done a lot with local schools through community investment. And then as well as the community relations, obviously there is the wider stakeholders, and the wider stakeholders really have to be a gap through the whole thing. There's a lot to be done with other stakeholders. You need to deal with the media, you need to respond to media inquiries, you need to have a programme of press releases about positive things about the project, and one of the things that's actually turned out to be very, very has required a lot of work on CrossRail is filming requests. So there's been a 3-part documentary about CrossRail on the BBC, and there will be another one because they're currently filming that. So that takes a lot of work for us to give them access into the contractor, into sites, and once it's done, it goes onto the television. Absolutely fantastic, a massive additional hits on the website as well, and the benefits of the project and the need for the project come across from that. It really helps the promotion of the scheme. We also need to keep the profile high with politicians, as I mentioned, and we get requests for site visits and presentations all the time, and we have to, we can't do all of them, we have to prioritise those. Overall, we'll do things which support getting the 3 key messages we have about CrossRail out to the people that we believe we need to influence. Those 3 key messages are that CrossRail is on time, on budget, and world class. I won't talk about the Arcundium, but I'll talk about that. That's basically all the countries in the world who have sent a delegation to CrossRail to find out about it. That's stakeholder engagement. I'm probably way out.
Thanks very much. There's probably a raft of questions. Actually, I'm going to ask one first, if I might. Quite sneaky. At the very, very beginning, you talked about a 2002 stakeholder document. Why did you choose not to draw attention to that?
It wasn't my decision. It was
not
just
basically
because we didn't have enough detail. So people, individuals, would be concerned about, does this affect my house? Well, we don't know yet because we haven't got you don't want to go out with something which is undefined. So we needed to focus in on people as the project developed.
But you need some information.
Yes. So we're basically going to the representatives of the people rather than people for the first stage, so through the local authorities.
Okay, any other questions? I'll say a rough question, but I know it. There you go.
Thanks. Thanks again. Who's been the, I don't know if you can name names, but who's been the biggest thorn in your side from a stakeholder perspective? Why were they like that? How was it resolved if it has been?
Oh, that's a massive, massive question. In the pre-build process, the 2 things which were of most concern were the fact that we had a shaft in the Spitalfields area, which and tunnelling below some very, very nice Victorian and Edwardian properties. So those people made a very big campaign against the project. But what was very good there was that we were actually able to completely change the project and remove that bit of the scheme. Unfortunately, it's in there. Unfortunately, not until we were already in Parliament. If we'd been able to do it a year and a half before, it would have been great, because we wouldn't have those petitions. But that was one of the big ones. After development of the project, it's hard to say really. Some local authorities are very relaxed, some of them are much more